Hello, hello. Testing, testing.
I can hear you at that, but you're going in and out. I can't hear you at all. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Andrea. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Annette. I just can't, Joey.
Can't hear Joey, no.
Don't hear you, Joey.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes,
Okay. I hit a button on my microphone while I was moving
yes.
it and centering it, and then I couldn't figure out what to do to get it back on. So, all right. Think we're good to go here. And welcome, everybody. I'm Joey Kramer, and this is Overcoming the Stories We Tell. And today we have very special guests joining us from the Mental Health Warriors. We've got Annette Chiappe, and we've got Andrea Evans that are going to be joining in on the discussion today. And today we're going to be talking about how to process and recognize trauma. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having
I'm
us.
happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive into this and get your guys' feedback and thoughts on trauma and how we can help people overcome trauma. My personal belief is everybody has suffered trauma, some sort of trauma in one shape or form throughout their lives. I've got a couple few rare people in my life that are always say, "Oh no, I've never experienced anything bad. I've never experienced trauma." You know, I don't understand what it even means. All of that. I hear people say that they haven't. And my philosophy is we've all had something happen at some point in time. And the state of the world, just looking around at everything that's happening right now, we're literally all experiencing psychological trauma. And we've been experiencing it for our entire lives. We're just now starting to wake up and recognize that everything from education to medical to agriculture to politics, the whole gamut, everything has been affecting us psychologically in one shape or another for decades. Now it's just starting to come to the surface that the, the traumas that we've had from all of these things building up year after year starting to unfold and unravel for many people around the world. And I think I wanted to talk about this subject today because our voices, our reach is enough to where we can help impact a lot of people out there that are starting to wake up and realize something isn't right and starting to recognize within them that they've got traumas that they didn't even know they had and they were hidden in plain sight. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I agree.
So let's kind of just dive into it. Andrea, we'll start with you. What do you perceive trauma as being? How do we even just start to recognize trauma? Because most people are simply sleeping out there. They're not really aware that trauma is existing in their lives. What do you believe trauma is? How do we recognize it?
I think for trauma in my mind are those very impactful negative events that can happen in a person's life. And I can give you an example. If someone's been sexually molested as a child,
Mhm.
um, that could cause trauma,
Mhm.
of
Of
course.
course. Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah, post traumatic stress disorder. I'm not diagnosing, but it can cause that type of reaction. And I see it showing up in self harm and that's so many different things like you know overeating, doing a lot of eating, or um, just being hypersensitive to to things, triggers. I think that it displays itself in that manner. But as far as what I see trauma as being, I think that it's those events in our life that they knock us back. They knock us back. We might not appear to be knocked back, but our system is, our mental health is, the way we react, and people don't understand how you're reacting. Think of, when you're thinking of people and being mindful, consider the fact that be trauma informed when you're caring and communicating with others. It's, I mean, people don't, being mindful, you know what I mean, of people's experiences.
Yes, the aware, I call it awareness, having that awareness of what's happened. Most people don't remember what happens though. You touched on PTSD. I've suffered from PTSD. I've suffered from sexual abuse. I've had a lot of trauma. I've had physical injuries, that were traumatic to me early on in my teenage years. And, there's just a gamut of what trauma can be. And I think we've labeled it wrong. We've made it like trauma can only be the most severe cases, like you said, of sexual abuse, of a death, of something truly monumental in a life, right? But traumas can be so much more small, unnoticed things that just are programmed, that are just shown to us out there, that affect us. Like you said, it's the triggers, and the reactions we have from them. Those traumas or the triggers, I guess, are a sign of trauma. Just we don't recognize it. We don't realize if something's triggering us, then there's something deeper down within that is poking us. It's what do you think, Annette?
Oh my goodness. Something's definitely when I uncovered that I had PTSD and had a nervous breakdown back in 2010. Something was definitely poking and it was very sharp. I am a survivor of incest and emotional, physical abuse from family, marriage, you name it. I've probably been through it. But right now, what's coming forward, and I'm recognizing it, and actually through this conversation, bringing it up, is I recognize trauma as not just the single event, but the whole, it's almost like when things start to appear and you start to recognize, wait a minute, this doesn't make me feel good. That's how I started to recognize my traumas. It was the whole sensation of feeling unhappy, and I didn't know why I was unhappy. So going to my doctor and getting on antidepressants kind of was the catalyst of recognizing, wait a minute, why do I feel this way? So that was the beginning of recognizing I had traumas, because I thought, I always say this in my podcast and everybody I talk to, but I thought that life was just like this, that you felt depressed, that you had anxiety, that you went around covering your feelings and emotions. So I didn't recognize that the traumas were trying to say, hello, wake up, I'm here, deal with me. And it didn't help that a lot of the times the outside influences were saying, no, you're okay, keep doing what you're doing. And so I don't know if that's some clarity, but
I think you're spot on right there. It's we've been told life is like this. We've been lied to and told by the trusted professionals, the doctors, the education system. They've all been lying to us, saying, no, this is just life. You should, especially with the masculine, with men, push that down. Don't show emotion. Don't show, your vulnerability. And I can understand exactly where you're coming from on it, because that's the big lie in all of this, you know, in mental health is it's like, no, don't suppress it. You're not supposed to feel this way. It's the exact opposite. You're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be joyful. You're supposed to be positive in life. But they've conditioned us to believe that that's just life, that negative crap happens, that, I mean, which it does. Things happen. It's how we perceive it. It's how we move forward with it. But, you know, you said you went to doctors, you started getting on antidepressants, all of these things that are a Band-Aid, in my opinion. You know,
Yes.
they're the true healing, the true overcoming of the traumas comes from facing them, from acknowledging them, from going through that process. It's a grieving process. I mean, when I've gone through my traumas and healed them, I literally went through the stages of grief. You know, just like it says, you know, you get angry, you get denial, you get all the way to the point of acceptance and just being okay with it and realizing it happened for a reason. You know, I think that's a big key with trauma is we forget how how everything is always happening for us in our best good. Regardless, you know, people don't want to hear that. I was molested. That's bullshit. I hate that person. It happened. I get it. But how can you grow from it? How can you use that experience that happened to you to make it a blessing in disguise? You know, that's the way I look at everything, every kind of trauma. It served a role. And until we really recognize it, understand it, and realize what that trauma served us for, we can't really grow past it. We can't become healed. We can't help others do the same. Would you guys agree with that?
I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I always, you know, like you are saying, and you're helping me to see this too. I always thought, like we said, we accepted it, you know, kind of in a sense, you know, how we were feeling. So my feeling was I was born to suffer. And oh, well, you know, that's what I was born to do. That's what I'm here for, is to suffer. And I mean, gee, imagine being stuck there for many years, you know, thinking this is how so you got to be tough. I'm not going to let nobody see me break because they're not going to see that I'm weak. I'm not going to, you know, telling myself all these messages, you know, throughout my life, and then getting to the point of release, you know, being able to release it and let it out in healthy manners, has been very pivotal for me, you know, as far as my viewpoint of, you know, being born to suffer. That's that lived experience. See, that's the reason. When you talk about the reason for me, now I can sit in the seat today and say, okay, it was for a reason, because I can help other people who have been through it. Maybe help someone be able to express themselves. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? Utilizing it, like you said, as a blessing, you know, to
Yeah,
others.
absolutely. And I think, you know, that's not to get off on a on a tangent or anything, but just to bring up kind of a glaring point. You said you lived your life kind of early on, you were born to suffer, and it follows more or less kind of the Buddhist principles. You know, when we start bringing in various religions into why things happen, why do bad things happen to people, and we can look at all the different types of philosophies, the different types of religions, and you know, Buddha said life is suffering. You know, I think it's misstated. You know, it's life can be suffering, you know, through the eye of the perceiver. You know, it's how we choose to see them. You know, I believe that nearly all religious texts, all the documents, the Bibles, the books, they all have so many, they're instruction manuals, in my opinion, instruction manuals on how we should truly live. But there's also been a lot of manipulation put in there. And, you know, that's a big one. You were born to suffer. Life is suffering. No, suffering is being able to recognize and accept and understand what we're dealing with, what we're going through in life, and then going and overcoming it. So I feel like there's so many bits and pieces of wisdom in a lot of religions that help guide us into the answers as far as mental health, you know, how to correct our thinking and how to correct our negative, our negative personas, our negative thoughts about life. It's the answers have been there. It's just really, again, it's that manipulation that we've had, and we've never really been taught how to truly address these things, how to truly overcome them, recognize them for what they are. So I love it, and you've now embraced that whole idea of your suffering served a purpose, and that purpose was to be able to help others now. And I imagine you feel great. You're at peace with it. You recognize the suffering simply as what it was, but it's not you, right? It's not who you are. It's just something you experienced to guide you onto the next step, and then the next step. And life's an amazing journey. We never quite know what the hell's actually happening until we look back and connect the dots and put the puzzle pieces together. And it's like, that's why that happened. That was so terrible. And I blame myself for 20 years when in actuality, it's like I had to do that. I had to experience that trauma in order to be who I am now. It's life's amazing. That's for sure. What are your thoughts, Annette?
I don't want people to get stuck there. You know what I mean? That's my purpose. Don't get stuck there. We waste so much time trying, let's be happy. Like you said, let's find peace. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine.
That's quite okay.
He asked you a question,
to expand on a little bit of the suffering part. I think a lot of humanity thinks that because we are here suffering, that the suffering is more important to focus on than the joyful things that we can experience. I'll give you an example. I'm struggling with myself right now because I'm writing my book, right? I have published my coloring books. I don't know if you checked into them or anything, Joey, but now I'm writing my book, the story of my life, the story of my experiences and everything. And it triggers me as much as I try to deny that it doesn't. So I'm falling back into some of my old suffering habits, which is I have compulsive overeating and binging. And I'll go up in my weight and it causes me suffering. So literally because I have the awareness about how to take care of, like my show is, of course, the self-care power hour of self-care. Because I have the literal awareness to recognize I'm suffering and then choose whether or not to suffer, and then recognize that, oh, okay, well, what should I do about this? Whereas before, when I didn't recognize I was suffering, I thought that was everyday life. I think most of humanity, like you said, Joey, is asleep. And we are asleep because we've been so stripped of the belief that we are so goddamn beautiful. I mean, human beings can be the most loving, kind, and compassionate sentience on this planet, and animals don't have that capability. So us as warriors can, unite and talk to the public and bring more awareness about. There's millions and millions. There's such a huge movement right now about humanity waking up. And I kind of broke it down as we, in the beginning, were the brawn, we're strong. We could bring down a mammoth. We had to take care of the village, whatsoever. Then we've moved into the mind, right? So now here we are with all this wonderful technology to make our lives incredible. And we can call somebody on the other planet, across the planet and whatever, right? And now we're coming into artificial intelligence. However, if we don't move into the realm of spirit and balance out the three, like a triangle, it's like the majority of humanity is going to stay in the suffering area because they're stuck in their mind.
Mhm.
That's my take on this whole thing about mental illness. Mental illness is there to wake us up. You know, mental illness didn't just appear on the scenes, like you said in the beginning. It's come from generation after generation after generation of the universal consciousness that is going in a herd direction. And then you have people that are breaking off from the herd, like ourselves, and saying, well, I'm not following those people. They're in their misery and suffering and they want to stay there. So how do we reach them? Right? That's always been my biggest question. How do we reach those people to recognize they're not their mental illness? They're not, you don't have to stay stuck in your suffering, right?
I love that.
You know, we did
Go ahead.
training.
Go ahead, Andrea.
We did the training here in Nebraska, and you asked how, Annette, through lived experience, like we're doing right now, sharing and building empathy. That's how you reach people. And I know this because I informed the research at UNL here in Lincoln, Nebraska, at University of Nebraska-Lincoln, our college. For 5 years, I was a trainer as a parent connector, and it didn't matter whether I had a degree or not. They wanted my lived experience so that we could reach people and not make them feel judged. It's you know what I'm saying? That process right there, I know it works. We have proved it works. And now those programs are going around in our community right now. But if you ask how to reach,
well, the more I'm involved in how we do many organizations, like the organizations we all must work with, because we're all involved in expanding out into more groups of people who are saying, hey, let's help others, right? I think there's this veil behind anything to do with, like, say, cancer, a death of a loved one, Alzheimer's, whatever it may be. And behind that is mental illness, because you see everybody is affected by everybody, right? So gradually what happens is it seeps into our mental wellness. Like, we could be fine 1 minute, and then all of a sudden one of our best friends is dying, and then you're now experiencing a new trauma. So it's always that constant need to stand up and support and be loving, having loving kindness, like the Buddha practices, and be understanding of people's suffering. Those of us who have gone through it and come to the other side can now be the compassionate examples, like yourself, Andrea, like you, Joey, and myself, who it's the love that I feel for myself, that I've gone through it and now I'm helping others, that I can stand back and be a witness and be the light for others to know that they're not alone in their suffering, right? Your ego gets in the way a lot before you make it through your mental illness, because part of mental illness is definitely your ego. I know it was for me.
You're just fighting with it, just absolutely. You're right, spot on it. You know, it's the compassion, it's the love, it's the forgiveness, the understanding, and the recognition. It's all these things that, as we heal, as each individual person heals those traumas, even the ones that didn't know they had traumas, as we start to heal, we start to just understand that life is about love. Life is about joy. It's about happiness. We've just been taught to believe, again, that it's about suffering. That's bullshit. You know, it only serves a purpose for us to evolve, for us to grow, And, you know, you asked, how do we reach the people and share this? And one, doing exactly what we're doing is necessary for sure. But I come from a slightly different viewpoint, that until people suffer enough, they cannot wake up. They cannot break free from the perceived matrix that we're living in, the illusion that we're living in. So it's just a matter of one trigger piles on top of another, until there comes a point. I was just talking to my son about this weekend. Until there comes a point that enough is enough, and that person decides to start asking questions, really, because the things aren't adding up, and they start to question just even one thing, nothing in particular, but just, well, that doesn't make sense, or how come they tell us to do this, yet this makes more sense, and I feel like people, again, we're waking up, but we're waking up in our own time. The three of us, everybody that's out there doing what we're doing right now, our job isn't to go out and wake up everybody. Our job's to simply be prepared as they awaken on their own, as they want to learn more, as they start asking those questions. We all started at the same place. I can almost guarantee, we all three started by asking questions of, what more is there? There's got to be something bigger. There's got to be more than just this day in, day out, this suffering, and when we really start getting to the bottom of asking those just simple but profound questions, that's when it leads each of us on our own journey. And our own journey is for everybody's going to be different, but we're going to find the resources. We're going to find the people that connect, that resonate with us. And that's, so to answer the question, how do we help and reach all those people? Just continue doing what we're doing. We keep putting out that positive light. It's going to attract those that are ready to start understanding and diving deeper into it. I wrote down from something I think you'd said, Andrea, about suffering and everything. And it's really the whole reason I do my show is overcoming the stories we tell ourselves, right? And suffering is literally just the stories we continue to tell ourselves about the past, about something that's not even real. The past doesn't exist, yet so many people choose to live in that past moment, and they choose to dwell on it and let it just break them down and tear them apart, really. It destroys us when we're stuck living in that past experience. So I feel, again, we've all been lied to. The idea is we need to live in that present moment, and we need to understand that the things that have happened to us, there's a fly flying around, have to understand that the things happening to us, or that have happened to us, were simply stories that we've imagined in our mind. We've programmed them a certain way. And that was where I had my most profound healing and my most profound evolution on my journey here, is when I really started going in and rewriting the stories, revisualizing, re-experiencing those traumas, which hurt. They suck to go back and experience them. But when I started doing it, and I started coming from that place of love, that place of compassion, of forgiveness, myself, for others, whatever they might have done to me, when I started coming from that place, it relieved that burden that I had on myself. It relieved that sense of suffering. And in a sense, it really rewrote that experience. I was able to rewrite that trauma into something powerful and meaningful that's going to help me along the way, as opposed to something that's going to keep me trapped and keep me stuck. And, so how do people, how do you guys, what do you guys think on rewriting that story? What are your guys' thoughts there? Because I think that's all there really is the stories we tell ourselves, and the way we interpret it, what are your guys' thoughts?
When, just like Annette, I'm in the process of writing my novel, Frassie's novel, and I've realized it's going to be 3 different novels, a trilogy of books. And, as I was writing through those traumatic times, I had to step back, I had to step back a few times, but then it made me move to do some research on the things that I had experienced to help to kind of change my mindset maybe a little bit, or teach me a little something about how I moved in that process. And so I am literally rewriting the story, and boy, it's coming out a lot different than I thought that it was going to come out. it's coming out on a more high end, and it's coming out on a, you're not going to be able to be pissed off or upset or hold that story of the trauma that I had. I'm taking you beyond that. You see what I'm saying? I never thought I would see myself doing that in this literary, piece of my life. But when I walked away from it, I had learned a lot. I walked away from it so much better. I want to also say, as we talked about trauma, it's not just those things that happened to us in the past. It could be a loss of health, losing a job, death of a pet, loss of a friendship. It could be so many different things that can hit you at different times in your life. So how do you overcome each event? Well, once you see that you can overcome the big stuff from the past, and also mindset shifting is definitely important, because you're going to have to work on looking at it in a different manner besides the suffering idea. Why? What's the purpose? Like we all said, what's it all about? Here we are rewriting those stories, Joey, and doing it in a way it was healing to me, because I was able to look at it in various perspectives of how to move. And it wasn't what I thought I was going to write. Let me tell you, I thought it was going to be this horrible, hurting, painful novel, when there's actually a light at the end of the tunnel. You're not going to walk away feeling, that dread of all the trauma that I share. You get to also be taken to a journey on the other side of where I'm at today and how I got there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's funny. All three of us are in the process of writing our books, right? And they all are about overcoming the traumas we've had, and all similar experiences, and it's we had a question here.
I think we need a mental health warrior book with the warrior stories in it.
There you go,
Let's
Adam.
do it.
Let's do it. We could each have our own chapters, and that's excerpts in it. And I think this goes right into it.
I think Adam would love it.
I'm already involved in that with a lady.
So
she's putting together
Adam,
stories.
what is Adam asking? Would you say suffer or would you say experience? I'd say
and
both.
It's both. I mean, we're suffering. It's what
you're experiencing it.
Yes,
but you're feeling it.
But it's interesting, what? If I could expand on what Adam's saying there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you're having an experience, and somebody could be having literally the same experience. Say there's a car accident, right? And you two different people witness it. Okay. Someone experiences it this way and the other person experiences it this way. But you've witnessed the same thing. So you have a different reality of it. One chooses and experiences suffering and the other does not. Now, why is that? Well, for me, when I learned about all this kind of stuff behind traumas, it was like, first, I didn't have the knowledge I have today about who I am and what is life really about. Okay. Second of all, now that I can recognize what a trauma is, so, it's traumatic seeing somebody die in a car accident. How long do I want to suffer about the loss of the person in the car accident? So I don't know how I've taught myself this, but I literally choose not to suffer. Person dies, I grieve them, I move on. And it sometimes I feel like I'm cold about it, but it's like, I just don't want to suffer anymore. And that's the whole thing behind me writing our stories, is that's a key part to having your mental wellness, is you have to rewrite every experience you have and choose not to suffer. I mean, or you can choose to suffer
stuck there.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
look, you're still going to feel it. You're still going to feel when you see this loss of this
Absolutely.
person and this, you're suffering right then. You know what I'm saying? What I hear you saying,
And we all
Annette,
process
is
grief
don't
differently.
stay there. Don't stay there. Process it. It is about the thoughts and what we tell ourselves. You know, so you mindset shift. You're not being cold. You just choose, as you said, not to stay in that suffering.
Yeah.
You're mindful.
Thank you for expanding on that, because
I think a key to that also is, like you both said, it's in the mindset. It's how we perceive it. But let's use the car crash reference. When somebody perceives that car crash from a state of gratitude, they can be grateful for their life, that, oh, I wasn't in that. Or they can look at that life that perished and think, wow, what an amazing life they must have had. And now they're on to the next realm. You know, they're in heaven. They're whatever you want to believe. You know, we can either go into that state of gratitude to perceive something, or we can go to the programmed state of fear, death, scary. Ooh, you know, black darkness. Don't want that. So our subconscious mind starts taking us down that path of suffering. Like, man, what would it feel like to die? You know, I don't want to die. I don't want to leave people behind. Then we dwell and we get stuck on that negative fear-based emotion, when all we simply have to do is learn. And it's practiced. It's not something easily done. But when we all start to, I think, see everything from a state of gratitude and learn, train our brains to no longer be triggered into going into the fear, but trigger our minds to go into the gratitude of it all, the whole world shifts. The whole perception of everything shifts. You know, is the glass half full, the glass half empty? It's whatever you want it to be and whatever you choose to be. If you want to suffer, you're going to choose to continue to see the suffering. If you want to be grateful, if you want to move past it, you're going to learn to see that glass is always half full and it never is anything less. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And let me add this. When we're talking about trauma, let's be clear what it is. It's a shock to our minds, bodies, and our souls. That's what it is in my mind. So you can feel that, but don't stay in that shock. Example, I was thrown off a motorcycle with no helmet into a dead man's curve up under a bridge. And a big old pole caught me. I mean, I had cracked ribs and stuff, caught me, and I slid down this pole from midair. So when I got to the bottom, because I thought I was dead, because I was flying in the air, I thought I was out of here. But when I landed, I looked around, as you said, Joey, and said, oh, I'm still alive. You see what I'm saying? I climbed out of that thing. I climbed out onto the road, and the traffic, they say stop traffic. I stopped traffic once in my life, and that was it. Wow. And to be able to climb
and you weren't even in a bikini or anything.
Look, I climbed out, and the people I was going up to, I was like, you know, help me. They were in shock too. They were traumatized. They were in shock because I didn't climb out. They're backing away from me.
You know something interesting, Andrea?
And I'm here still.
You know something interesting? You bringing up both of you talking about the whole gratitude thing has really made me just have an epiphany. Because as a child, I wasn't taught to be grateful. Now that sounds really foreign to me right now, because why aren't we taught from a young age to be grateful? I mean, I know there is people that do that. But for me, growing up as a small child, not having that knowledge, that if I had been more grateful for stuff, like recognizing what it feels like, probably I would have been able to process my traumas sooner, right? Is what I'm saying. Another thing I wasn't taught was forgiveness. Okay. So the lack of people not teaching other people what the knowledge we have, I think is one of the most saddest things happening out there. Like now we
Yes.
can pass on our loving wisdom. And, I always tell my clients, take what you need and leave the rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
There may be somebody who knows all about gratitude, but they know nothing about self-forgiveness. Or they
Mm-hmm.
may know everything about forgiveness, but know nothing about gratitude. And there's so many things in life that need to be taught, which aren't being taught until we recognize, oh my God, I've had a trauma. Now I need to go
Mm-hmm.
through this whole process. Can't we kind of stop putting the cart before the horse and start, from a younger age? My thing has always been to teach children. I lost that opportunity being separated from my kids, but now I get to teach them this, right? It's not being wasted. It's inspiring that now, because I have this knowledge, I can pass on my wisdom about learning about gratitude, learning about forgiveness, and et cetera, et cetera.
I
You
have
said
to
something
tell you.
important to that.
I'm
Pardon?
sorry.
You said something important about, you weren't taught that way growing up. And I think that's a big part of this process is we have to learn to forgive and to have compassion for our parents because they didn't know
Yeah.
better. They're learning just like we are. They all started at the same place. And if they weren't taught how to do it, if none of us are taught how to do it, then how the hell are we going to change? So we can have trauma, perceived trauma from our parents, be angry with them. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Or we can have that just state of compassion and love them for they were doing the best they freaking could with the information they had. So when we take that blame out of it and we start to, again, turn it into gratitude, I think, and start to
Mm-hmm.
see them for the blessing they were. They did their best with the knowledge they had. And that's for me what I try to do in every experience, every trauma, everything of my past. I try to go back and I try to rewrite it in a compassionate way that I see the love, see the goodness, and I can erase the negative aspects because they say, it's like Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
What they
We're
do.
all just sitting,
Yeah.
we're all just going through this same movie, this same video game. We don't really know the answers, but we're starting to get some pretty big clues on how to fix things, how to cure these mental illness. And it's all in the head. It's all forgiveness and seeing the compassion in others, doing the best they could. Not blaming,
Right.
if we're blaming anybody, we're really just blaming ourselves because we're still stuck in that negative loop. The only way to get past the blame is to accept it, I think, is to embrace everything that happened for me. Everything that happened to me, I chose it one way or another. Was it before I came here? Was this my mission and I do these things? Believe what you want. That's everybody's choice, as to how the universe works and all of that. But
Yeah.
Can I add something? I want to add something to that.
Yeah.
We're talking about, I'm hearing you both, and I'm sorry, I'm sitting here busting at the seams because my experience was different. I grew up as what they called a frassy in my community because they said I'd been here before. So I came here. I didn't have to be taught some things. Those things I had the will. I had the will and knew, you know what I'm saying, how to have gratitude. They didn't have to teach it to me. Although it was taught to me, I came here with that. That's who I was. My experiences when I was being traumatized in a sexual manner, my elders came, the women, and they pulled me out of that situation as it was occurring. So I was surrounded by the women. There was a circle of women around me that I actually saw during these moments. And I came here with the knowledge already and the will to be grateful, I mean, it was just no one taught me how to be grateful. I was grateful. Look, I'm still sitting down here at the bottom of some concrete, heads not busted open, and able to climb out. I survived this. How would I not feel grateful? It didn't have to be taught to me. It was just something that I already had acquired when I got here. And again, they call me a frassy. They said, I've been here before. I come back from the elders, from the ancestors. So it's kind of a different experience, but I think it has served me well, like you said, Annette, to be able to heal quicker.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, through my experiences as a child, I was so carefree. There's a video of me running around in a parking lot, and I'm so carefree. I'm skipping, I'm jumping, I'm singing, I'm laughing. And I literally was watching that around the time I was going through therapy. And I was looking at the screening of myself as a child and going, that's me. Like, I didn't recognize her, but somehow I did, if that makes any sense. It's like, but that's how I really want to feel. I want to feel like that little girl, full of love, full of energy, full of happiness. And it's literally because of all of the stuff that happened to me, I lost that, right? It was, my therapist has said it was the loss of innocence. So when you have the loss of innocence, there's this whole part of my life that is blank. So maybe I was like you, Andrea, I think maybe all of us are born with all of these emotions and capabilities and understandings and wisdom, but it's lost because of the traumas. And then we have to relearn what we were stripped of. And I literally had to learn all of this from beginning, right? What is gratitude? What does that mean? What does trust mean? Like, I had no clue. And the more I learned, the more passionate I became about loving myself, and more passionate I became about being connected to like-minded souls, so that I could continue my journey of, because this is healing for me still. It's very, having these chats about gratitude, about mindsets, about traumas, everything that we talk about on the Mental Health Warriors helps me continue my journey of remaining peaceful, right? It gives me great joy to be talking with you guys.
Well, I'm gonna bring you some bubbles. I'm gonna send you some bubbles so you can go outside and skip and blow some bubbles, Annette.
You should see the videos of my barbecues.
That's awesome. I couldn't agree more, though. I think we're all born that way. We come in as kind of perfect in a sense. Our minds are open. We're grateful for everything. It's just a beautiful experience. And I think that's part of what's happened to us is the power of trauma, the power of negative emotions is it's so powerful that maybe the powers that be know this. And at some point, it's a matter of getting all of us to lose that innocence with one sort of trauma or some other, whatever it may be. It's like they're just throwing it at us every which way they can. And they know that at some point, one of those traumas is going to stick. And it's going to take us from that true, innocent, loving, grateful, joyous being that we all came here to be. And it's going to put up that wall. It's going to shut everything down. It's going to turn off our true powers in a sense. And it's the reawakening. It's the remembering is the whole process.
I like that. Remembering. Yes.
Yes. We started here. It was purposefully shut off for our evolution, for our growth. And our whole journey is simply about remembering who and what we were and what we were like at that childlike moment. Because when we're living in that childlike moment, we're showing love to everyone. There's no enemies. Kids play on the playground, black, white, green, orange. They don't care, boy, girl. There's just love and there's just happiness and everybody's enjoying one another. There's no fear, really. You know, they don't even know what fear is until, what is it? I think the fear of falling and the fear of, there's only two real fears we're born with, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Other than that, there's not, everything else is programmed. So, you know, I think as far as this show goes, it really is good to expose that we're all having traumas, that we've all had this ability shut off from us, and it's acknowledging it. It's recognizing that we need to go back within. We need to remember who we once were. And I think having videos like what you watched, Annette, that would be amazing. You know, if more of us had those awesome videos, those awesome experiences to watch. Unfortunately, I can only go back in my mind to remember them because I don't have any recordings of me as a small child, but they're still there. They're still
That's
in our
where the stories come
mind.
in.
The what?
Yeah.
That's where the stories come in, Joey.
Yes.
You got to
just
show.
imagine those
Telling the stories, brother.
Right?
You doing
exactly.
it.
Well, I don't know about you guys. I just tried last month. I tried my first hypnosis session, QHHT, what Dolores Cannon used to teach, you know, as far as the quantum hypnosis, and it did not work in any way, shape, or form. I've yet to ever be able to be hypnotized, and I'm going to continue trying until it happens, till it works. But, you know, the only thing I can think of, and again, with the hypnotist I'm working with, is there's most likely so much trauma, something so horrific has happened at some point in my life that it literally shut down. My subconscious mind said, nope, not going there, not even going to allow you to open that door and peek in because you can't handle it. You're not ready yet. That's a theory, you know, that's my theory.
Maybe it's protection.
And protection a lot of times. Yeah. So it's really
protecting you.
I think that's what's happening at the moment. And as much as I want to believe I'm ready to tackle it, it's like literally there's nothing that scares me anymore. And there's nothing I'm worried about. But why is it still protecting me? Why is that door still not being opened? And it's for me to figure out. But I think, you know, the question to you guys is, how do other people that don't even know they have trauma, like me, if I've blocked so much out because it was so painful, I could easily live my life saying, oh, I've never had trauma, I've never done this, you know, never experienced that. But at the end of the day, our subconscious mind saying it's the one blocking it. So we can't really remember. I would guess to say the majority of the population has blocked that out and they don't remember what's happened to them. So what do you, as we're closing here, you know, what are your guys' thoughts on that? How can we, obviously we said, you know, storytelling, writing our story, journaling, things like that. But what are some of the techniques you guys would specifically say for people to use to try and reawaken these memories that have been hidden from us to protect us in a sense? But the time has come to start remembering them because we all have to heal to get through this journey. So whoever wants to start first.
Go ahead, Annette.
I've learned that asking questions is one of the most important things to do with somebody who's struggling. I believe, this may sound strange, but I believe in tough love. Now, everybody has a different definition of tough love, but my definition of tough love is being honest with somebody. So, for example, my children, who I've had an estrangement with, and now being reunited with, Joey, the tough love was saying to their face, you're always angry. And just pointing something out like that is not only difficult for me because it was so traumatic, the loss of my children for that many years, to be so forward with them and not like knowing them too well. But I trusted my instincts. I understood my wisdom was the time when you need to speak up to help people is when they're in those moments. And everybody's like, so, oh my God, no, don't offend anybody. Oh my God, don't trigger somebody. You have to be so careful. But the tough love is basically just sharing your wisdom honestly. That's my definition of it. So telling my daughter, honey, you're really angry right now, is like mirroring back to her that there's something she needs to talk about, and asking questions. Why are you angry? Why are you angry? And shut up. Don't try to tell them why they're angry. Don't try to explain to them why they're angry. Just, you're angry. Why are you angry? And at the beginning, it starts with, oh, I'm not angry, but then it comes out.
Mhm.
So I think asking questions is one of the most important things. And I'll shut up now.
Oh, I love that. And it's so odd, it's so true. The only one that can heal ourselves is ourselves. And if we don't start to ask those questions, why am I angry? Antidepressants only mask the problem. Therapy, I think I've talked about this on one of my shows, or maybe with you, Andrea, when we were on a while back. And it was, the question of why is this? Why am I acting like this? What's triggering me? What's the root cause of my anger? Because anger's not even an emotion. Anger's just the side effect of sadness. So why am I really sad? What the hell is causing me to be this angry? Thus, what am I so sad about that I'm not remembering? What trauma happened that is causing that pain, that's maybe that separation from self, from spirit, from the universe? I think asking questions, that's a great way to help starting to lead people down that path of remembering. So great advice, Annette. I like that a lot. Andrea?
Now, me, I'm not trying to find out. It might be too much for me when I get there. That's the way I look at it. I'm not, I know enough. I mean, I have memories from when I was 3 to 6 months old, the monster in my closet. When we rode by this house, I asked my mother, how old was I when we lived there? She was amazed. She said, you were about 3 to 6 months, but the monster was nice. He had my back. But so I have memories, you know what I'm saying? Way back to 3 to 6 months old. So I'm not trying. I remember everything to me in my mind, everything that happened to me from that point, being a child. I could see it right clearly today. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not. If there's anything worse than that, I don't want to know. Let it stay over there. So where I'm gonna go from that is I'm gonna be willing to heal from where I'm at. I'm gonna meet myself where I'm at and be willing to heal. I'm going to accept support from my loved ones because that's something that I never really was good at doing. So I'm able to do that. I'm going to seek the assistance of a trained professional if I need to. And I'm going to practice the mindfulness and meditation that it takes to take care of myself. And, I'm going to do those things because I'm not trying to dig deep back and open up a whole nother Pandora's box. I'm cool where I'm at because I'm at the healing stages. Now, if something happens to come back, hey, I'll have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to go dig back. I don't want to know. If it was worse than what I know, I don't want to know. Let's just heal.
You're talking about the details, right?
Yeah, I know it all. Yeah, and what happened? You know what? Yeah, it's like yes, it's
the
a
details
movie in
really
my
don't
mind.
matter.
I don't want to go back.
Advice,
Yes.
Yeah,
protect
for those,
myself.
Right, protection and staying in that positive mindset is key. And yeah, if we start opening doors that we're not ready to open, it can really set us down the wrong path for sure. For me and my healing journey, I've forced open certain doors that I knew I needed to heal from. But at the same time, I'm like you, I'm not opening doors that don't need to be opened. The only ones I'm trying to open are the ones that I'm called to learn more about. It's like, okay, something is telling me I have to understand this, or I need to understand that. And whatever comes from it is only going to be positive and a blessing for me. But that's the mindset I choose to have. That's the mindset I choose to live with. You know, again, everything's always happening for us. Nothing's ever happening to us. We live in a universe where God loves us, where we're creating from beauty. So why create from that negative? Why create from fear? It's not necessary anymore, I don't think. We've evolved past it. So, ladies, we're at the end of the show, at top of the hour here. I've had an amazing time talking with you. Thank you guys so much. You're my first two guests I've actually had on the show here. Usually I do it myself, but I thought, what the heck? I want to have some guests on this week and do something a little bit different. I've really enjoyed this kind of roundtable back and forth. Annette, Andrea, thank you so much. Appreciate what you guys are doing. And be sure, everybody, to check out the Mental Health Warriors. We're now on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. In addition to YouTube, find us on Facebook. Find the personality that resonates best with you and follow their journey and allow yourself to heal from whatever traumas, whatever stories you're choosing to tell yourself. Just continue to move forward, positive, knowing that it's all going to work out in the end. You just have to have that trust and that faith and that belief in knowing that is certain, and that is the way it is. So don't dwell on the suffering. Don't dwell on the negative. Let's just stay positive and keep our heads up, help somebody in need, you know, give them a smile. If they need a smile, give them a smile. If they need a hug, give them a hug. Be there for one another. We're all we've got in this world. So stay strong, stay together, and keep spreading the love, the light, the joy that we all have within us. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks ladies again for tuning in, and we will see you next time.